Hello, welcome to the 80 Literary and Jury Charge. We're going to start off with some fun facts. Okay, so this is called the first Greatest Hits album. Ready? Greatest Hits albums are an inexpensive way for a record label to create a new product. They take existing songs by an artist and resell them with little to no new work required. The first time it was done was in 1958 when Columbia Records collected 12 Johnny Mathis songs and that had been previously released only as 45s or had appeared on movie soundtracks. Johnny's Greatest Hits was a massive success. It peaked at number 1 on the album charts and remained there for 490 weeks, almost 10 years. And then down below it says, per capita, nobody reads more books than the citizens of Iceland. Interesting. All right, I've got some Latin and French words. I'm going to give you the words and then read the paragraph. So we've got obiter dictum, per stirpes, pro tanto, semper fidelis. All right, here we go. Ready? Obiter dictum is that which is said in passing. Obiter dictum has no bearing on the case or the outcome of the trial. Per stirpes means according to the root, a distribution among heirs to an estate would be per stirpes. Pro tanto means as far as it goes. The extent of recovery is based on the consideration received or pro tanto. Obiter dictum may be a court's opinion that does not affect the final decision. Per stirpes means by way of representation. Pro tanto means that partial recovery can be made based on performance received. Semper fidelis is the motto of the United States. Semper fidelis means always faithful to a cause. All right. Have some jury instructions, jury charge, and the subject is criminal. You're going to hear beyond a reasonable doubt, which is either written Y-A-R-D, yard, or Y-R-D without the A. Perpetration, promote, instigate, unlawful killing, malice aforethought, reasonable doubt, which is written initial R, final D, intentional, unintentional, manifested, property, deprive, permanently. Here we go, ready? The defendant is charged with the commission of the crime of robbery. The crime of robbery is taking of personal property in the possession of another from his person or immediate presence and against his will, accomplished by means of force or fear, and with the specific intent permanently to deprive such person of the property. These are special allegations that were charged against the defendant, and you will receive special instructions in that regard. In this case, the specific intent to commit robbery and the commission or attempt to commit such a crime must be proved beyond a reasonable doubt. If a human being is killed by any one of several persons engaged in the perpetration of or attempt to perpetrate the crime of robbery, all persons who either directly and actively commit the act constituting such crime, or who, with knowledge of the unlawful purpose of the perpetrator of the crime, and with the intent or purpose of committing, encouraging, or facilitating the commission of the offense, aid, promote, encourage, or instigate by act or advice, its commission are guilty of murder in the first degree, whether the killing is intentional, unintentional, or accidental. Murder of the second degree is the unlawful killing of a human being with malice aforethought, when there is manifested an intention unlawfully to kill a human being, but the evidence is insufficient to establish deliberation and premeditation. If you are convinced beyond a reasonable doubt that the crime of murder has been committed by a defendant, but you have a reasonable doubt whether such murder was of the first or second degree, you must give the defendant the benefit of that doubt. All right. We're going to finish up Secrets of Survivors. Here we go. Ready? Not one of us can bring back yesterday or shape tomorrow, adds Frederick Buechner in The Hungering Dark. Only today is ours, and it will not be ours for long. And once it is gone, it will never, in all time, be ours again. Don't be afraid to dream. Terry King went blind after a shell burst in his face while he was in combat training for Vietnam. He lived near the water and had always longed for a cabin cruiser. Unable to afford one, he decided to build one himself. But how could a blind man build a boat? King found a volunteer from the Blind Service Association who was willing to video a book on boat building. After listening to the tapes, Terry eventually managed to build a 33-foot cabin cruiser in his backyard. Though he would always need someone to pilot it, he was happy because building the boat was the biggest challenge I could meet. In the Will to Live, Dr. Arnold Hutzner writes, "People go about their tasks without weariness if they have a goal and a belief in what they are doing." The survivor's life jacket is made of the imperishable things with which he surrounds himself: books, music, spiritual faith, purpose, a dream. Long ago, I read a haunting line whose author I have forgotten. I tried to walk without a dream, and I fell down. It is not easy to be a survivor, but it is always worth the effort. If we can live our lives well in suffering, hardship, or failure, if we can use all our talents and courage, then something of great worth will emerge and be added to the common good. This longing to beat the odds, to conquer our own weakness, has carried humanity through its long history. It is the cry of the heroic in all of us. All right. Great article. I love that. Some closing arguments. Actually, I would just call this jury instructions. All right, let me give you a word list. Okay, we've got commencement, intimidation, Ray Freeman, unambiguous, violence, deprive, McCall, Mr. Anton, extortion, ineffectual, distinguish, and the brief for that is DWISH, D-W-I-S-H, devising, and commission. All right, here we go. Ready? I have read you portions of the instructions as they pertain to you. I would like to define attempt for you at this time because it is the same definition as the crime of extortion. Only the attempt is different. An attempt to commit a crime consists of two elements, namely a specific intent to commit the crime with specific intent to commit extortion, and a direct but ineffectual act done towards its commission. That's all you have to have. Now, the instruction goes on. It is necessary to distinguish between mere preparation and the actual commencement of the doing of the criminal deed. Mere participation, which may consist of planning the device or devising, obtaining or arranging the means for its commission. This is not sufficient to constitute an attempt. This would be like going and getting the weapons at Kirk Anton's house. The simple fact is getting those weapons. Now, that is preparation and not attempting the crime of extortion, but acts of a person who intends to commit a crime will constitute an attempt where they themselves clearly indicate unambiguous intent to commit that specific crime, and in themselves are an immediate step in the present execution of the criminal design, the progress of which would be completed unless interrupted by some circumstances not intended in the original design. Of course, what was not intended in this case would be resistance by Mr. Freeman and resistance by Officer McCall, if you believe that when they went across the park, they went over with the intention of committing an extortion. That act of going across the park, that act of putting their weapons out before they arrived at the car, these would be acts in furtherance of the attempt. In these crimes, you again have to show the elements of extortion along with the elements of attempt. What was sought was $50,500, which was held by Officer McCall and Officer Ray Freeman. So you do have something of value. That was the first element of extortion. The money was to be taken from their immediate person or immediate possession. Again, they intended to force them to hand the money over, so that element is satisfied. The taking was to be with the specific intent through intimidation or even violence to permanently deprive the work of the money. All right. We only have a little bit of time left. I'm going to read a little bit from Welcome to Bodie. And it's a ghost town located, actually it's in California, but on the border almost of Nevada and California. Here we go. Ready? This is Bodie, or rather what remains of Bodie. Today, only about 5% of the buildings remain from the town's 1877 to 1881 heyday, most having fallen victim to time, fire, and the elements. Designated a California state park in 1962, it is now preserved in a state of arrested decay. This means that buildings' roofs, windows, and foundations are repaired and stabilized, not restored. Following the 1849 gold rush, mining declined along the western slope of the Sierra Nevada. Prospectors, ever hungry for the next big strike, crossed the Sierra Nevada to prospect the eastern slopes. W.S. Bodie from New York discovered gold here in 1859. He died several months later in a blizzard, never seeing the town that honors him. Bodie's bones were rediscovered in 1879 and then misplaced after burial. His final resting place is now thought to be somewhere on the hill above the cemetery. The town's name came to be spelled Bodie. All right, and that concludes our 80 literary and jury charge.